In this video, we're going to add a method to our game entity interface and then implement that method across the ball and paddle classes. This is a method that will be used in collision detection so that we can actually tell when things bump into each other. So this method is going to return a bounding rectangle, which basically means just like the rectangle that is closest to the object. So if it's a circle, all four, like the top and bottom and left and right of the circle touch the edges of the rectangle, so it's contained within them. So, and so it's not perfect collisions that we're going to use. We're going to use those bounding rectangles to determine that'll be the collision box that we use to tell whether or not things bump into each other. So it's going to have to actually return a rectangle. So this is a method that will have a return type. Its return type is not void, so it'll return this bounding rectangle, and our method will just be called getRect. But the compiler is angry at us right now because it doesn't know what the object called rectangle is. The reason is this object is contained in Java in a library that we have to just import. So it's a tool that's available to us, and you wouldn't know this stuff until you practice it a bunch. The library is called Java AWT, it's referred to, and this is some of the stuff that you just kind of have to learn. It's like the memorization part of programming. So we're going to import the library called java.aut, and we're just going to say we want the whole thing, .star. So bring me this whole library of tools in which is contained the rectangle object. This is just something that you kind of have to learn, is the way it goes. I mean, there's ways to understand where to find different things, but that's kind of, as you learn your craft of programming, you'll get used to it. For right now, it's just enough to know that these were available to us. We just had to import them so that the game recognizes it. Okay, so we've added a method to the game entity interface, but our two classes, ball and paddle, which promise that they implement the game entity interface, thereby promising that they will have all three of these methods, do not, in fact, have a getRectangle or getRect method yet. So let's add one. All right, so our method, in this case, has to return a rectangle object. It has to be called getRect. And for the ball, we're going to use the dimensions of the ball and stuff to generate a rectangle that is correctly oriented in space. So the ball is being drawn in the center X and center Y position. And so in order to return a new rectangle that is appropriately bounding this box, we have to say we want the rectangle to start, the top left corner is going to be the X minus ball size divided by 2. So put this in parentheses. So the X coordinate is the integer component, so just the whole number part of X minus half of the ball's size. Okay, so the Y coordinate, we only want to use the integer component of this also. The Y is going to be Y minus ball size divided by 2. And the width of our rectangle is just going to be ball size. And the height of our rectangle is also just going to be ball size. So here is the ball's getRect method correctly implemented. So this will generate a rectangle, a bounding rectangle around our ball that we can then use in collision detection. Now we have to go do the same thing in the paddle method, or in the paddle class, because if we scroll up to the top, it too is mad because we've promised to implement all of the methods contained in the interface game entity, but we haven't actually put those into our class yet. We haven't implemented them. So we're going to say this will return a rectangle called getRect, and it will send back a new rectangle of dimensions we're going to just use the integer component again of the x coordinate of our rectangle. And we're going to use the integer component of the y position. That is just an int, actually. So, oh, and this isn't just x, it's draw x, sorry. Draw x. And then we are going to use just the integer component of the width of our paddle and just the integer component of the height of our paddle. And it seems like I wrote one of these things wrong. So paddle width. And there we are returning a new paddle, a new rectangle with those dimensions. Why is this mad at this point? Method return a result of type rectangle. Oh, return new rectangle. Sorry. So we have to type return rectangle. And I'll just bring these things out so that they're equal with each other, so that it's more easily readable. All right, so there we have implemented the method getRect, which will be used in the collisions that we're going to do next.